Today at Coins and Tyrants we are talking about the fall of the Roman Emperor Valerian and how his tragic fate demonstrates the fragility of the Roman Empire during the 3rd century. Emperor Valerian reigned from September 253 to June 260, smack dab in the middle of the crisis of the 3rd century, which would nearly result in the collapse of the empire. The crisis began in 235 with the assassination of Emperor Severus Alexander by his own troops. During the following 50-year period, the empire saw the combined pressures of barbarian invasions and migrations into Roman territory, civil wars, peasant rebellions, and political instability, with multiple usurpers competing for power. There were at least 26 claimants to the title of emperor, mostly prominent Roman army generals, who assumed imperial power over all or part of the empire. The same number of men became accepted by the Roman Senate as emperor during this period and so became legitimate emperors. Later, Aurelian reunited the empire militarily with his military victories. The crisis ended with Diocletian and his restructuring of the Roman imperial government in 284. This helped to stabilize the empire economically and militarily for another 150 years. This is the chaotic empire where Valerian found himself general of the northern armies under the command of Emperor Gallus. When Gallus had to deal with the rebellion of Emilianus, another Roman usurper, in 253 AD, it was to Valerian he turned for assistance in crushing the attempted usurpation. Valerian headed south to aid Gallus but was too late. Gallus was killed by his own troops who joined Emilianus before Valerian arrived. Upon his arrival in September, Emilianus's legions defected, killing Emilianus and proclaiming Valerian emperor. In Rome, the Senate quickly acknowledged Valerian as the legitimate emperor. Now Valerian found himself the sole ruler of a dying empire, beset by both internal and external strife, unable to trust his own generals for fear of betrayal. Valerian's first act as emperor was to appoint his son Gallienus as Caesar. Early in his reign, affairs in Europe went from bad to worse, and the whole West fell into disorder. In the east, Antioch had fallen into the hands of a Sassanid vassal, and Armenia, a client state of Rome, was occupied by Shapur I. Valerian and Gallienus split the problems of the empire between them, with Gallienus taking the west, and Valerian himself heading east to face the Persians and the growing Gothic threat. This tactic of splitting the empire in two would later be permanently enforced by Emperor Constantine in 395 in an attempt to hold back the tide of chaos that was sweeping through the Roman Empire, which would have mixed results that we will discuss in another video. As Valerian set out on his doomed campaign to the east, he initially met minor success, including recovering Antioch by 257 and returning the province of Syria to Roman control. In 260, Valerian, despite being in his 60s, arrived in Mesopotamia to aid Bithynia against the Sasanians. He met the enemy between the famous killing ground of Carrhae, where Rome suffered one of its worst military defeats, and the city of Edessa. In the ensuing battle, Valerian was thoroughly defeated, and he retreated his remaining troops into Edessa. The city was quickly besieged by Sasanians, and the city suffered from an outbreak of plague that would ravage Valerian's few troops. At this point, Valerian knew he was defeated and attempted to negotiate a peace treaty with the Persian king. These negotiations, however, were a trap where Valerian and most of his general staff were taken prisoner. The rest of the army would surrender not long after. Valerian and his surviving troops would live out the rest of their lives in Persian captivity. Most of the common troops were relocated to the far eastern provinces of the Sasanian territory, using the knowledge of the Romans to their advantage. The Romans were pressed into constructing many architectural buildings, including Bandi Caesar, also known as Caesar's Dam, and the Bridge of Valerian, located in present-day Iran. This bridge doubled as a dam and shows all the hallmarks of Roman construction practices. Valerian himself, however, suffered a very different fate. According to some accounts, Valerian would spend the remainder of his life in Persia as a prisoner and slave, dragged in chains and forced to crouch down so Shapur could step on the emperor's back to mount his horse. How Valerian died remains a subject of debate. Some accounts say that he was flayed alive. Other accounts detail Valerian's attempt to bribe the Persian king for his release, and Shapur's response was to pour molten gold down Valerian's throat. After Valerian was dead, however, most accounts seem to agree that his skin was removed, dyed, and stitched up to create a lifelike dummy of the man himself. This would serve mostly as a warning to foreign dignitaries of the fate of those who resisted the Sasanian. Valerian is mainly remembered for being the only Roman emperor to ever be captured and taken prisoner. However, in 257 he issued the first empire-wide edict ordering the persecution of the Christian church. He seized Christian property and executed those Christians who did not recant their beliefs. Many Christian writers even claim his capture and treatment at the hands of Shapur was evidence of God's wrath. The joint rule of Valerian and Gallienus was threatened several times by usurpers. Nevertheless, Gallienus held the throne after his father's death until his own assassination in 268. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed it, feel free to like and subscribe. If you have any ideas for videos, let us know in the comments, and if your idea is chosen, you will be shouted out in the video.